Hello everybody, my name is Gnomehuts, I'm non-binary they them, and you're watching my in-depth conversation about Hazbin Hotel. Before we get started, I would like to ask anyone watching to please watch the whole video before leaving comments. I welcome any comment and you all deserve to have a voice, so I will not be restricting comments or anything like that, but please remember that I am a person and if your comment is aggressive or threatening, I reserve my right to delete the comment. I will also not be talking about the comics. This is just going to be a conversation about the pilot as if there was a new person who just watched it. I will also not be talking about the personal controversies Vivziepop herself has gone through or is currently going through. This is just a look at Hazbin Hotel. I've seen a lot of people saying that the pilot shouldn't be critiqued because it's a pilot and no pilot is perfect, and that's right, but that's the point. The point of a pilot is that it's flawed and it's supposed to be workshopped and turned into something that isn't as flawed. Critique right now is incredibly important to the show, especially since it's been picked up by A24. People being vocal about things they want to change is important to make sure that the show can be the best it can be. It's important for producers to listen to their audience about their opinions and what they have to say. With that being said, this video is going to be broken up into different categories, of which will be time-stamped in the description and the top comment, so if you want to skip to a particular segment that you think is interesting, or you want to hear my say on, it's right there. One click away. Nothing else needs to be said here, so let's get started. Hazbin Hotel is a pilot directed and produced by Vivian Medrano and animated and edited by her team at Spindlehorse. The plot follows main character Charlotte Magny, who goes by Charlie and is the daughter of Lucifer, the king of hell, which makes her the princess. Every year, exterminations happen to make more room at the cost of killing thousands. This bothers Charlie, and she comes up with a plan to fix the overpopulation problem in hell. She does this by coming up with a plan with her girlfriend Vaggie to make a hotel titled Happy Hotel, where sinners will go to be rehabilitated. They ask a spider demon, Angel Dust, a semi-famous adult worker, to be their first test to see if it works. However, Angel Dust is only interested in helping Charlie and Vaggie because they promised him a free room. He is seen to be participating in drug abuse and turf wars. In order for Charlie to get the word of her hotel out to the public, she makes an appearance on a TV news station with Katie Killjoy and Tom Trench to talk about her hotel and spark interest. However, this does not go well, and she takes to singing to get her point across. While this is happening, a turf war between a Cyclops Cherry Bomb and a serpent demon, Serpentius, starts up. Angel Dust, who is friends with Cherry Bomb, helps her with this turf war, which gets reported back to the news station as Charlie is saying she already has one inhabitant, said Angel Dust, who is currently participating in a turf war. This obviously does not get her point across very well. After Charlie gets into a fight with Katie Killjoy, Charlie, Vaggie, and Angel Dust are in a hotel talking about how things aren't going the way they planned. Charlie, who is upset, makes a phone call to her mother and vents to her about how things are going. It's implied that her dad does not support what she's doing and she trusts her mother a little bit more than her father. Shortly after, there's a knock at the door and Charlie opens it, revealing one of the overlords of hell, Alastor, the radio demon. Vaggie explains to Angel Dust that Alastor is one of the strongest overlords of hell, and she explains to Charlie that he is not to be trusted and under no circumstances should she make a deal with him. Charlie is told this information and Alastor announces that he wants to help Charlie run the hotel and can supply things to help out. When asked why he wants to do this, he explains he likes watching things fail and that he's bored. Charlie makes a deal with him without making a deal, and Alastor is now added to the hotel's working team. After this, he does a song and dance number reminiscent of swing music, and he brings on two more characters, a Cyclops demon named Nifty, who's going to be a maid, and a bartender named Husk, who is a cat-owl demon who is meant to man the front desk and serve alcohol. With that, that's the staff of Hazbin Hotel that we currently know of. The pilot ends with Serpentius appearing again, revealing he's fought Alastor before, and Alastor quickly gets rid of him. And the pilot ends with everybody walking into the hotel and Alastor changing the name of the hotel from Happy Hotel to Hazbin Hotel. With the synopsis out of the way and everyone caught up on what happens in the show, I'm going to talk about the things I like about the show. I really enjoy the premise. The idea of hell being overcrowded is a very unique concept, and the idea of rehabilitating sinners is another very good idea. The whole concept of Hazbin Hotel is a very good idea. I also really enjoy that it's an adult cartoon with a unique style. Most of modern animated cartoons out there all have the Simpsons style or the Family Guy style. Neither of them look very pleasing to me, so to get an adult cartoon that's in a style that's very pleasing and unique to look at is very refreshing. The voice talents that were selected for the characters are also very well chosen. Vivziepop is very particular with making sure that the people voicing the characters fit them perfectly. She was so precise with it, she even got different singing voice actors for Charlie and Alastor, which shows that Viv is very dedicated to making sure that this show is the best it can be. I really admire that amount of dedication. I also admire the fact that the whole plot was made by a tiny team of a few animators, a few editors, and a few voice actors. What they were able to accomplish is nothing to be sneezed at, and I have major respect for the crew and what they were able to do. Critique: a detailed analysis and assessment of something, especially a literary, philosophy, or political theory, or evaluate a theory or practice in a detailed and analytical way. Critique is one of the first things that is taught in any art school. Not even art schools, but any art class you take. Crit is absolutely necessary for artists or a person who wants to create things, because it helps you grow as a person and understand things you could have done better. Boiled down, critique is something that is designed to help build you up, not tear you down. Critique is really hard to learn how to take and even harder to learn how to apply it, but once you get it down, it makes a big difference. So what is good critique and what is bad critique? That's a very good question. Here's an example of good critique. I like A, but I think B could have been done like this or approached at a different angle. C could also use a little work, and here's how you could do that. Here's an example of bad critique. This looks like shit. You're stupid. Let's break down what makes them good and bad. A good critique is a compliment and then a reason you don't like something followed by a way of explaining how it could be made better or a different way something could be approached. Bad critique is something that is a direct attack to the creator or the work, with no offer of ways something could be improved. Of course, there can always be harsh critiques where your art is directly insulted, but that doesn't invalidate the critique if it's followed up by something important that could be edited or changed. You, of course, don't have to take criticism, but you should take some consideration of what someone said, because you could use it to make your craft better. Something artists should always strive for is improvement and getting better. Stagnating is never good. An important thing to remember is that critique does not automatically equal hate. Now that I've explained to you the way criticism works, this is where I will start criticizing the show. Please watch with an open mind. Charlie is the princess of hell. She's female, bisexual, and dating Vaggie. Her goal is the reason the show exists in the first place. She's meant to be our chauffeur throughout the show to help guide us in this version of hell. Charlie, to me, is very boring. She's like water in the group. She has no flavor, which could be good and has been done well before. However, it doesn't work well as a main character trait. If she were a secondary character, this wouldn't be much of an issue. However, it becomes an issue when she's outshined by the secondary main characters, Angel Dust, Vaggie, and Alastor. Charlie is a hard character to read because in some points she reads like she's supposed to be naive, but in others she seems almost willfully ignorant, especially when it comes to things Vaggie warns her on. I'll be touching on her and Vaggie's relationship later on in the LGBTQ+ segment. So how would I change her? I would play into her princess side a little more. Maybe she grew up sheltered from hell, so she doesn't understand that the people of hell aren't good and aren't willing to change. Because of this sheltering, she's nervous for the interview and doesn't understand that singing will absolutely not help her case, and despite Vaggie's warning, she does it anyway because she's convinced that it will help, because that's how she was able to get things from her parents and their help. This would also explain her accepting Alastor onto the team. She's convinced that nobody could be as cruel and heartless like him, so she accepts him despite knowing the rumors about him. She thinks they're just that, rumors. Later, when Serpentius appears and challenges Alastor, and Alastor gets rid of him without so much as a blink, she realizes that maybe hiring him wasn't such a good idea. This would be a good way to go about having the audience learn about the environment we're in, instead of having things explicitly stated to us. Because despite Charlie having lived in hell for a long time, she's still technically new to it, due to her sheltered upbringing. I do think that this is something that Vivziepop could have been trying to portray through Charlie, however it simply just doesn't read that way. Better ways to show this could be through simple dialogue, such as when Charlie and Vaggie are getting ready to go on TV, Vaggie says, "Are you sure you're gonna be okay, Charlie? You've never really been outside of the castle." Or Charlie saying, "Alastor can't be that bad, nobody is that evil." Things like that. Vagatha, or Vaggie, is Charlie's girlfriend and the manager of the Happy Hotel. She's a female lesbian, and she is a moth demon. Vaggie is seen to be basically running the whole joint. She helps with making sure things run smoothly, and she's frequently defending Charlie. She's also very smart when it comes to the inner workings of hell, knowing what she does about Alastor, and to even be dating the princess. Vaggie is seen to be angry all the time, easily set off, etc., which leads to her being incredibly unlikable, which I find strange, since throughout the whole plot, the only character we've seen to be correct is Vaggie. Vaggie tells Charlie not to sing because it'll jeopardize what they're trying to do. Charlie sings anyway, and what do you know? It ruins the interview. She tells Charlie not to trust Alastor, Charlie trusts him anyway, and it's very clear that that's a bad idea. A problem with Vaggie being so angry and uptight is that it does perpetuate the stereotype of an angry Mexican. Vaggie, if you didn't know, is Salvadorian, which makes her Hispanic, and a stereotype of Hispanic folks is that they're angry and uptight. The stereotype comes with most people of color. I recognize and understand that this show is meant to be offensive. However, if you want to put characters that are diverse in your work, such as people of color or people of the LGBTQ community, whether the show is offensive or not, your character shouldn't perpetuate harmful stereotypes, unintentional or otherwise. You can have representation without making it offensive. So how would I change Vaggie? I would change her anger into clear signs of stress and worry. Instead of her being so ready to argue and snap at Angel Dust when he's being a dick, have her inhale and talk to him calmly, instead of engaging with him by yelling at him. Have her showing clear signs of being stressed by standing stiffly, rubbing her temples, or fiddling with her hair, or even saying small lines like, "I hope this works," or flat out saying, "Charlie, do not invite Alastor, I'm stressed enough as it is." Instead of her being outright angry, she's more of an exasperated angry from basically running the whole hotel. Angel Dust is an adult worker and a patron of the Happy Hotel. He's male, despite contrary beliefs, and is gay. He seems to not care about how he affects people and does things of his own volition. He's the show's main source of sexual jokes and innuendos. Alright people, I have a lot to say about Angel Dust and his character. Angel Dust is supposed to be a very deep character. He deals with very heavy things such as sexual assault, abuse, and worse at the hands of people who frequent his job. It's not clear if he likes his work or not, but we can put together that he doesn't, and the only reason he's doing this is to get money to support his addiction. The way that this is shown in the pilot is bad. First of all, I would change the jokes questioning his gender. This is more so a problem in the comics and in the fandom and things like that, but Angel Dust is a gay man. He is not trans. Making gender-questioning jokes about his character who already looks feminine is transphobic. The things that are said to Angel are things said to trans women and trans men to hurt them, point blank, period. Please respect and listen to trans people when they say something upsets them, especially if it's something that could be seen as transphobic, and especially if you're cis. The second thing I would change is the way he acts in the show. He's constantly making sexual jokes. He is not played up to be a very serious character, so for them to tack such a dark story onto him, one that many of the watchers will relate to and understand, is not okay. I would change this by making it clear in his behavior that something is wrong. Something that could be done is, after he insults Travis and Travis drives away, have Angel Dust turn around and make an uncomfortable look or covering his face and sighing, showing he is clearly not comfortable with the things he'd done to get drugs. After Vaggie calls him out on being a shithead and helping to ruin the hotel for Charlie, have him show a split second of remorse. Small things like that to show that the personality he's putting on is for show, and underneath, he's really not okay. These kinds of things should be conveyed in the pilot, not a music video posted almost an entire year later. I understand that a lot of these characters are supposed to be stereotypes, but stereotypes shouldn't stop a show from having three-dimensional characters, and characters that are stereotypes should have cracks in whatever it is they're stereotyping to show that they are three-dimensional underneath and worth paying attention to. Tacking on something as serious as sexual assault with PTSD from it is not a good thing to put on a character that acts and is treated like a joke. Making stereotypes in characters has been done before, especially in TF2, but that doesn't stop those characters from having deep backstories. Alastor is one of, if not the strongest overlord of hell. He's a dear radio demon, and he's male and joined the Happy Hotel staff to watch everything fall apart because he's bored. He's sarcastic, enthusiastic, and pretty much any other astic in the dictionary. He has an effect over his voice that makes it sound like he's talking through a radio. Alastor is somebody who I think doesn't really need to change that much in his character. I think he accomplishes what he sets out to do nicely. He's supposed to be there to help the hotel populate and get patrons, as well as making sure the place is more welcoming, and he does it for his own selfish reasons. He's meant to be threatening in his undertones, and the voice actor portrays Alastor very well. I've seen a few people saying that Alastor's song and dance number was out of place and weird, but I disagree. Alastor's song and dance number was an important part to making Charlie trust that he'll do good with his promise and help the hotel. Charlie likes song and dance? What's better than a guy who is originally suspicious performing song and dance? However, there is one thing I would change about Alastor. I apologize if I get a little touchy in this segment. As someone who is trans and not straight, I take these things very seriously, and it's not things that I can take lightly. Alastor is asexual, but he's very poor representation. Ace and Aro people get absolutely no representation in media. Aphobia is still a massive issue, not only in the LGBTQ plus community, but everywhere else as well. So when you make a serial killer cannibal Ace for the only reason of he loves himself too much to love anyone else, it's bad. Ace people get no representation, and finally one shows up in media, and the only reason he's Ace is because he's a narcissist. It's bad and borderline aphobic, especially considering that the fans blatantly ignore the fact that Alastor is Ace and continue to draw NSFW of him, or even outright stating that they refuse to acknowledge Alastor as Ace, or saying that Hazbin is bad only because Alastor is asexual. That is not how to handle a character being Ace, and it's not representation. The Ace Aro community deserves better. Let's talk about Vaggie and Charlie's relationship. It's not very good. They're supposed to be a couple. If that's the case, then how come we barely get any actual couple interactions from them? It would be so simple to add in a cheek kiss or holding hands, but the most we get representing their couple is the occasional pet name or touch. Nothing that shows they're actually a couple. Everything could easily be brushed off as, oh, they're just best friends. Throughout the pilot, Charlie is constantly seen disregarding Vaggie and what she's saying. The fans then turn around and say that Vaggie is the terrible one in the relationship. Vaggie tells Charlie not to sing, and she says it sternly because if she doesn't, Charlie won't listen. The whole time Vaggie is talking to her, Charlie isn't paying attention. She clearly isn't listening or interested in what Vaggie is saying, and she sings anyway. What happens? Nobody takes her seriously, and the whole TV shoot is a fiasco. Later in the car, Angel Dust is being blatantly rude to Vaggie, getting her worked up and even at one point straight up being racist and sexist, and finally Charlie speaks up and says something. Yes, Charlie is upset the interview didn't go well, but it was her fault in the first place, and her girlfriend is defending the hell out of Charlie, taking the full brunt of the verbal assault, and Charlie barely says anything to console her. She barely tells Angel Dust off. I don't know about you guys, but if this was happening to my partner, I'd be pissed. Then Alastor comes and Vaggie tries to convince Charlie that she shouldn't accept Alastor onto the hotel's staff. Charlie yet again brushes her off, even saying, I can take care of myself, which paints Vaggie in a bad light of being overbearing when she's not. She's just caring and wants her girlfriend's goals to succeed. Wow, a woman of color whose only personality trait is that she's angry all the time and is painted as the toxic one in the relationship when she's not? Charlie never checks up on Vaggie after they get to the hotel. Vaggie sits on the couch to try and distress, and Charlie doesn't even check to make sure that she's doing okay. Vaggie's name also just straight up is vagina, which is so stupid considering that Vaggie is the only lesbian character that we've seen so far, and she's constantly the butt of the joke and constantly portrayed in a negative light. And on top of that, she's straight up named after female genitalia. I would change her name. Vaggie and Charlie's relationship was also originally painted to be best friends, and their relationship was tacked on at the end to get extra brownie points. Lesbian relationships deserve better. That brings me to my next point. How come all of the gay relationships are toxic, but the straight relationships are shown to be healthy? For example, Angel Dust and Valentino. Their relationship is founded completely on sexual assault and abuse. Charlie and Vaggie's relationship is incredibly one-sided. Dia and Summer, the girls from the Addict music video, are only there for the fetish of two women kissing. Vox and Valentino are shown to be in a relationship so abusive that Vox's screen is shattered because he was late bringing Valentino a drink, and all of the comments celebrate the abuse and take it lightly and normalize it. The fans only seem to care about the abuse when it comes to Angel Dust. Nobody cares when Vox's screen gets shattered, and no one cares about Dia and Summer even though they're in the same position as Angel Dust. You cannot be selective when it comes to abuse. Either you care when somebody is being abused or you don't. Abuse is not and should not ever be marketed in a way that is funny or normal, and the fans absolutely should not be taking the abuse as something that's funny or somebody deserved it. That's not okay. Again, how come the gay relationships in the show are portrayed like that, but the straight relationships in the show are shown as nice, happy, healthy? An example, Charlie's parents, Lucifer and Lilith, they're said to be in a healthy and happy, loving relationship. Another one that isn't explicitly in Hazbin Hotel, but it is in the universe, is Moxie and Millie for Hell of a Boss. Their relationship is shown to be kind, sweet, caring, loving. Millie checks up on Moxie when he's stressed or angry and calms him down. Vivziepop can clearly write healthy relationships. So then how come she doesn't when it comes to same-sex relationships? The LGBTQ+ community deserves better. The community has collectively been through so much. We know the abuse. Most of us have seen it firsthand. Nearly every gay piece of content out there for the public ends with two people not being able to be together, or one of them dying, or the relationship is abusive. Show at least one gay relationship that's written well, that's written like the straight relationships are written in the shows. Please. I'm sorry it got so heavy there. Let's focus on some minor, less important things. The colors in Hazbin Hotel are really overwhelming. Here's a few backgrounds to look at. They're all reds, pinks, and blacks, and they're all completely saturated, and to people like me, who get overstimulated, it's very hard to look at. And then you put characters that are also all reds and pinks and rarely an accent color who are also full saturation, you get something that's very hard to focus on. This is a simple fix. There are a lot of colors that can be used to represent hell. Reds, oranges, and yellows are the most stereotypical, yes, but have you considered how good purple would look? Blue? Purple and blue are also used to represent hell. In the Netflix show Lucifer, the way they represent hell is by making it mostly blue, because blue, when used correctly, can feel like an empty color, a very cold color, a lonely one. I would suggest adding more colors in and making the background colors desaturated so the main characters stand out more, and our eye is drawn to the important details, because with how Hazbin Hotel is laid out right now, it's hard to look at. Here's what Hazbin Hotel looks like under a red colorblind filter, something that I just thought was really funny. I think that the Addict music video did really well with this. The backgrounds of Addict were mostly desaturated purples and blues, and the things meant to catch our eyes are saturated or glowing, sometimes both. It made it really easy to focus on the characters and the things happening. It picks up with the flashbacks between Angel dancing in the club and him laying in bed, because his house was mostly grays. It really added to the mood of the story and made it more interesting, and when we are brought outside to Cherry Bomb running amok, a lot of the buildings were purple tinted and had teal windows, and the ending scene was mostly blue. It was absolutely gorgeous. The pilot would have been much easier to watch had the backgrounds looked like that. Plus, if the backgrounds were desaturated, there could be more power in scenes that could need bright saturation, like backlighting. I'm hoping that since the colors have been one of the biggest critiques, Viv has been listening to them, and that's why the Addict music video looked so good. A lot of people's gripes about the show is the offensive homophobic joke that the character Katie Killjoy makes when talking to Charlie. People rebuttal it by saying Katie is in hell and is supposed to be a terrible character, and nobody is coming to an agreement. The thing is, both sides are right. Offensive jokes are really hard to execute correctly because either people are going to love it or it's going to piss them off, and that's the kind of reason for offensive jokes. Katie is not a character we're supposed to like, so it would make sense for her to make a homophobic statement. However, that's what it should have been. It should have been a statement and not a joke. When it's played off as a joke, it makes it feel like we're supposed to laugh at blatant homophobia, which isn't a good take. If you did want to make a joke, have Katie be a homophobic person in the LGBTQ+ community, so that way it's not a straight person punching down at a gay person, which we've seen so many times. Instead, they're on equal ground, one of them's just being an ass. Something I do have an issue with is how many sexual jokes there is in the pilot. I get it, the people of hell are horny. I understand that. There doesn't need to be a sexual joke every 3 seconds. As I've stated before, Angel Dust's whole character isn't supposed to be just a stripper. He's much deeper than that. So why is all his humor boiled down to haha I said daddy and daddy is a kinky phrase? Adult shows can be adult shows without all the sex jokes. In fact, I wish Hazbin Hotel took itself more seriously. I can't think of a single adult cartoon currently that isn't run on sexual innuendos, jokes, and baseline humor to get cheap laughs. Hazbin Hotel could have been the perfect opportunity to show that adult animated content can be serious and have deeper meanings, which, again, Viv was clearly trying to accomplish with Angel Dust, as well as Cherry Bomb and Alastor. There's clearly a story happening here, so why muddy it up with easy jokes kids could laugh at? I think the only jokes I laughed at in the pilot was when Serpentius said, "Son," and Alastor said, "Why does anyone do anything? Sheer boredom." Alright, I'm gonna talk about the fandom for a bit. Imagine you just stumbled across Hazbin Hotel. You have no prior knowledge of it, or its creator Vivziepop, and you watched the pilot and you liked it. So you go on Twitter or Tumblr or Instagram, and you type Hazbin Hotel into the search bar because you want to see more content of it. You're delighted to find that the pilot has been accepted to a network, and you go into the comments, and all of the fans are absolutely tearing into one another. The Hazbin Hotel fandom is not a welcoming place. They are absolutely bloodthirsty. If you so much as whisper a criticism about Hazbin Hotel, they'll be at your throat. The fans have harassed, doxed, and purposefully used people's trauma against them to make their point. Seeing some of these conversations feels like I've walked into a preschool, but this time preschoolers have access to the internet and angry bad words. I have seen, on many occasions, fans saying that people who ask for certain things to be tagged because of their traumas are snowflakes or weak. Hazbin Hotel fans have also doxed young creators for criticizing the show or sending floods of unnecessary hate. Don't think I'm letting the antis off the hook either. The antis act just as bad as some of the stans. If you so much as mention you're a fan of the show, here come the antis to tell you you're wrong and you should die because you like a shitty cartoon coupled with weak arguments that have no points. Neither sides are right. Dear Hazbin Hotel fans, stans, or whatever you identify yourself as. If you see someone saying something negative about Hazbin Hotel, something you don't like or don't agree with, don't engage with it. Take a deep breath, take a step back, and remember that these are real people you're tearing into on the other side of the screen. Your identity does not have to be tied to the show. If you're really having an issue with someone and they're saying something problematic or terrible, start up a civil conversation. Calmly explain your side and have a polite talk. Doxing is illegal and also incredibly traumatizing to the person being doxed. It should never be your go-to option. There are different ways of dealing with problems. Don't feel bad for liking Hazbin Hotel either. Please just learn to recognize that there are some flaws. It's not perfect, But the show is doing pretty well right now, and it's going to be workshopped, and I'm so happy for you and Viv to have gotten it on TV. Dear people who aren't fans of Hazbin, antis, or whatever you identify yourself as, if you see someone talking about how much they love the show, or posting fan art they've made, or cosplays, or engaging on a post that's Hazbin Hotel positivity, just leave them alone. It's not your job to butt in and ruin something for someone. Please remember that there are people behind the usernames you're talking to. You can make your posts about how you don't like Hazbin Hotel or give criticism, but don't attack someone. If someone is being transphobic or homophobic or racist, handle it with the maturity of an adult. People are allowed to like what they like, and at the end of the day, you're not making anything better by telling people to kill themselves or constantly hate-stalking Hazbin. There's more that you can do. Engage in a community for a show that you do like. Dear Vivziepop, if you're watching this and you've watched my whole video, I want to say thank you, and congratulations on getting your show picked up by a studio. That's incredibly impressive and a massive milestone in your career, and you should feel proud of yourself and your team for what you were able to accomplish, and I look forward to seeing Hazbin Hotel on TV. Please consider some of the criticism I've given you. You don't have to accept it or even like what I have to say, but I do implore you to read everybody else's criticisms of Hazbin Hotel, especially from groups of minorities that are speaking up about issues they have with the show regarding characters that are supposed to represent them. I'm sure you want your show to be the best it can very possibly be, and that means reading criticism and taking it. Also, please, if you see your fans attacking people, please stop them. They won't stop unless you tell them to. You have the power to calm the waters down regarding Hazbin Hotel, and if you want your show to be successful, you'll need to take a little initiative in calming down the people that watch your show. So what are my final thoughts on Hazbin Hotel? I think that it has a lot of potential to be something great, with a little work on everyone's end. I think Hazbin Hotel's biggest flaw was it suffered from overhype. It was constantly promoted for years leading up to the release of the pilot, and when we got the pilot, it wasn't quite exactly what we thought it would be, having seen all the information on it. I like Hazbin Hotel. It's definitely not my favorite show, but it isn't my least favorite show. I will probably watch it when it drops on TV to see what changed, and I am interested in the story as it unfolds, and I do like the characters. So, with that all being said, thank you so much for watching my very long video. If you want to ask me any questions or find my art, you can follow me on my social media listed in the description below. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a like and a subscribe. I post a lot of art-related content, and while it's not always going to be deep criticism dives like this, I'm sure you'll find something you like. I've also made videos that you can find in the playlist link down below where I redesign the main 4. If you watched all the way through, thank you so much for watching and supporting me. It means a lot. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!